Hello everybody, welcome to 2.4. This is what we call compound inequalities. So what is compound inequalities, you say? Compound inequalities when we have two or more inequalities joined together with the words and, or. So let's talk about what the word and or means. Okay, so let's look at our first example here with ors. So we're going to have x is less than or equal to -2, so let's graph that first. So here's -2, it's a closed circle. And it's in letter symbol numbers form, so we shade it in that direction. The other one is x is greater than 3, so I'm going to find 3, open circle, and shade it in that direction. So what this means when you have an or is that your answers could be from here to here, or they could be from here to here. Those are your two options, right? So if we were to graph this in interval notation form, when we have an or, we are going to have two separate intervals. So the first one is going from -infinity over here to -2. -2 is a closed circle, so we give it a bracket. We write the word or. Okay, and then we have 3. 3 is an open circle, so we're going to give it a parenthesis. And we're going over to infinity. And of course, that gets a parenthesis. One way that I like to remember these things is when we have or sounds like divorce. Okay, if your parents are getting divorced, one is pulling you this way, and one is pulling you that way. We have an and sounds like sandwich. Okay, when you have a sandwich, you are putting two things between breads. That's what an and would look like. So keep that in mind if you have an and or an or, and figure out, okay, ands go together, so they're getting sandwiched between each other's, and ors are getting divorced, so they're going opposite directions. All right, let's jump on some of these and see if we can get the gist of it. So ors are really nice because ors are typically, well, always going to be written as two separate equations. So here we have x minus 4 is less than -7, or 2x is greater than or equal to 12. So we just solve them very simply as two separate problems. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides here. So that gets me x is less than -3. I'm going to have my or here. Divide both sides by 2. So that's going to give me x is greater than or equal to 6. All right, so let's go graph these. So I'm going to start first with my -3. So I'm going to plot that as an open circle. It's in letter symbol number form, so I'm going to shade in the direction that it's pointing. Or I can go to 6 with a closed circle and shade in the direction that's pointing. Notice how they're going in opposite directions. Beautiful. So now we have to go ahead and do our interval notation. So I'm going to start over on this side with -infinity. And as I move from left to right, I'm going to stop at -3. -3 is an open circle, so it gets a parenthesis and an or. Then our next place that we're going to start with answers is going to be 6. 6 is a closed circle, so it gets a bracket. And we're going to infinity and beyond. And they always get parentheses. 2 I've already solved for you, so you just go ahead and look at that, work through yours, make sure it's the same answer. Looking at 3 here, again, 2 different things that we can solve, so let's get to it. I'm going to -9 from both sides. That gets me 2x is greater than 8. 8 divide by 2. So that gets me x is greater than 4. So that's one answer. Let's do this side. I'm going to -10. So that gets me 5x is less than 0. Divide by 5. So that gets me x is less than 0. All right, let's plot these. So I'm going to start with 0. 0 is an open circle, letter symbol number form, shading in that direction. Then I have x is greater than 4. Let's see, is that a great? Yep, just greater than. So open circle at 4, shading in the direction that it's pointing. It's an or, so they're getting divorced, so that looks great. All right, let's do our interval notation. Here I'm going to start at negative infinity. And the first roadblock that I'm going to hit is 0. 0 is an open circle, so it gets a parenthesis. Going to write the word or between it. Then I'm going to start back up at 4. 4 is an open circle, so it also gets a parenthesis. And that's going to infinity. Once again, a parenthesis. 4, again, try by yourself. It's very similar to 3. If you get a different answer, let's figure out where we went wrong. All right, last one, 5. 5 requires us to do some distributing. So that gets us negative 6x minus 3 is less than negative 15. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So that gets me negative 6x is less than negative 12. Divide both sides by negative 6. Ding, 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 ding. Dividing by negative, so we got to make sure we flip our sign. So this answer is x is now greater than 2. All right, let's work our other side. Going to minus 1 from both sides, so that gives me negative x is greater than or equal to 4. Divide both sides by negative 1. Ding, 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 ding. Flip your sign. So that gets me x is less than or equal to negative 4. All right, so we're going to graph that. So negative 4 is going to be my first answer. That's a closed circle, shading in the direction that it's pointing. Then I'm going to go with 2, open circle, and again, shading in the direction that it's pointing. It's an or, they're getting divorced, so we're good with that. Now let's do some interval notation. So I'm starting over here at negative infinity. And my first answer that I'm encountering is negative 4. That's a closed circle, so it gets a bracket. Going to write the words or. The next answer I'm encountering is 2. That is an open circle, so it gets a parenthesis. We're going all the way to infinity and beyond. All right. So that is the or notes. Let's go move to the and portion. With and inequalities, they tend to be graphed together. So let's look at what this might look like. So far I have x is greater than negative 6 or equal to. So I'm going to draw my number line there, and I'm going to draw that answer. Now I'm going to go grab a different color. I'm going to graph x is less than or equal to 1. So again, closed circle here at 1 and shading in the direction that it's pointing. Now because these are ands get sandwiched, we need to graph the answers that are overlapping. So which answers would go with x is greater than negative 6 and x is less than or equal to 1? All right, so my final graph would look like this. A closed circle here at negative 6 and going all the way to a closed circle here at 1. My interval notation, closed circle at negative 6, gives me a bracket, comma, and then I'm going to go all the way to 1 with, again, another bracket because it's a closed circle. Because the solutions to an and inequality fall between two endpoints, they are frequently written as a more condensed form. So let's write this one up here. So I've got x is greater than or equal to negative 6 and x is less than or equal to 1. So one way we can write this, we're going to put our smaller number and our bigger number with an x in between. Okay, do your letter symbol number first. So x is less than or equal to 1, so I'm going to rewrite that. And then for my other one right here, I just have to flip my sign. So now it's going to be less than or equal to. Doesn't change the answer, just a different way of writing it. All right, let's go and look at some examples. So let's work here with number 2. So number 2, what I always do is make two different equations. So I have this first part, and then I have the second part. So I have 2 is less than or equal to x plus 4. And then I also have x plus 4 is less than 9. Solve them as two separate inequalities. Okay, so I'm going to minus 4 from this one. So that gets me negative 2 is less than or equal to x. So that's one answer. Same thing over here. I'm going to minus 4. So that gets me x is less than 5. That's my second answer. All right, so I need to rewrite this one so it's letter symbol number form. So x is greater than or equal to negative 2, and x is less than 5. So we're going to go to negative 2. That's going to be a closed circle. Positive 5 is going to be an open circle. And I'm just going to connect them with a line. Going to my interval notation, again, nice, sweet, and short. My first answer is going to be at negative 2. Closed circle, so it gets a bracket. And then my last answer is at 5, open circle, so it gets a parenthesis. I have done 7 and 8 for you, so check those out, try them on your own, make sure you get the same answer. And let's dive into the last two answers. All right, so again, we're going to make two separate equations. So I have negative 1 is less than 2/3 x plus 1, or I have 2/3 x plus 1 is less than or equal to 5. I really should say and, not or. All right, so let's solve this one first. Minusing 1. So that gets me negative 2 is less than 2/3 x. To get rid of our fraction, we have to flip and multiply. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3/2. You can either do this in a calculator or do it by hand. So 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. So I have negative 3 is less than x. It's my first one, and again, I can rewrite that so it's in letter symbol number form. So x is greater than negative 3. Solving this one, I'm going to minus 1 from both sides, so it gets me 2/3 x is less than or equal to 4. Flip and multiply, again with a calculator or by hand, so that'll get you x is less than or equal to 6. All right, let's graph it. So I have x is greater than negative 3, so I'm going to find negative 3, and that is an open circle. Then I'm going to find 6. 6 is a closed circle. And I'm just going to connect them in between. Diving in for my interval notation, the first answer I'm going to hit is an open circle at negative 3, so that gets a parenthesis. And we're going all the way to 6, which is a closed circle, which gets a bracket. All right, last one here. So again, two different equations. So I have negative 2 is less than 2 parentheses x minus 6. And I have 2 parentheses x minus 6 is less than or equal to 4. We'll start over here, distribute that 2. So I've got negative 2 is less than 2x minus 12. Add 12 to both sides, so that gets me 10 is less than 2x. Divide by 2, so I get 5 is less than x. Again, flip them so you get letter symbol number form. So that gets you x is greater than 5. Same thing on this other equation. So I have 2x minus 12 is less than or equal to 4. Add 12 to both sides, so that gets you 2x is less than or equal to 16. Divided by 2, so you get x is less than or equal to 8. All right, last one, graphing them up. So I have 5, which is an open circle, 8, which is a closed circle, and I'm just going to graph right in between them. Doing my interval notation, my first answer is an open circle at 5, followed by a closed circle at 8. All right, that concludes the lesson for today. If you guys have any questions or any concerns over interval notation and or compound inequalities, let me know. We'll have a Zoom session. Bye guys, have a great day.